Hello and welcome to another edition of the Villa Vision podcast with me, your host Dan Craythorne, and my guest Jake Albury's. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Buzzing after tonight, to be honest.
No, I totally understand. And we've also got Ben Smith. Ben Davis with us. How are you, mate?
I'm alright, mate. How are you? Buzzing
yeah,
after tonight.
yeah, it's class performance, wasn't it? Class performance. So let's get straight into it anyway. So tonight, as we all know, we all travelled to the Craven Cottage this evening in our second Premier League game of the season and decimated newly promoted Fulham 3-0. Grealish scored after a marvellous Magin assist in 5 minutes. This was then followed up by another good goal after a fantastic flowing move ended with Magin teeing up Horahan on his weaker right side to stroke into the far corner for the second. We then rounded off the game early in the second half from a set piece. Ming stabbing home from a beautiful delivery from Horahan early on. So today we'll discuss Villa's performance. So let's get straight into it. A great performance from the lads, professional, assured, and deserved, if I do say so. How would you sum up the game tonight against the Cottagers, Jake?
I think it's all about consistency, isn't it? For me, it's a game. Fulham's a game you expect to win, but maybe it's a game we don't win last year. So it's about consistency and again consistently putting in the performances we have done. It shows that we're kind of on the right track almost. Wherein we're still solid defensively. They had more of the ball, but does it really matter? Like we created more chances.
Yeah.
We looked dangerous when we had it. Jack was outstanding.
Yeah.
Like
just
quickly, it just shows the progress we've made.
Yeah, just to quickly touch on that. I mean, I think them having more of the ball plays into our hands. Just to quickly comment on that, because we aren't a side that we do have good players that can unlock teams, but the pace of our team going forward is our benefit, wouldn't you say? It's the counter attacking side, and I think Smith has always wanted to be that sort of side, but not had the players at his disposal to play like that. Would you agree?
Yes. It's one of those where he's obviously Smith's game plan last year, but we didn't really have we had El Ghazi and Trezeguet most of the year. I know Trezeguet's improved a lot recently and he had another good game today. But for long periods, Trezeguet weren't really at it last year. I think that's probably fair to say. So
yeah,
I think it's like you said, it's more now Dean Smith has the players he wants. We're playing the Dean Smith way, if you know what I mean.
No, yeah, I totally agree. So Ben, how do you think we played this evening? Do you agree with Jake, or is there any points that you'd like to make on the way we played, or the style that Dean's sort of now being able to play opposed to last season?
I'd be honest, like we scored 4 minutes in, and the ball from McGinn was quality. Like you're not going to get much better than that in this league.
Yeah.
And then finish from Jack with quality. It's ice cold. It's just so composed.
Yeah.
And then you got the second goal. Ollie Watkins' run from the throw-in and the hold-up play was just top quality, really.
Yeah.
Held off the defender, and then the intellect from Jack to make the run that he did, and for Watkins to spot that pass.
Yeah.
Really benefited us. And then McGinn bumming the defender, passes it off to.
Yeah. I'm just going to bring Jake in.
We get the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's fast flowing football, and it's something that's a real trait of how Dean Smith plays. At Brentford, we saw it. Lesser people would have seen it at Warsaw, but I think Jake has a point to make on this. So I'm just going to bring Jake in on that. So yeah, Jake, do you have a point to make on this? Sorry.
Yeah, for me, the first goal is very Liverpool-esque, wasn't it? The run from deep from Jack is the run that Manuel Salah would make. The ball in from McGinn is a pass through that Firmino or
Henderson
make.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of Liverpool a bit, and I guess that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's no bad thing to be mimicking the ex-European and world champions, who again decimated Arsenal, who have been class this year, 3-1 tonight, of course. So yeah, that's a valid point, and I think the style of play that we have, and some would laugh at us in this sense, but we do play very much like Liverpool in the sense of we play the same sort of formation. We play the same sort of sense of we want to push, we want to press high up the pitch and win the ball high up the pitch, and we were doing that countlessly in the first half. Once we got 2-0 up, I think we tried to maybe not. We didn't press as high, especially towards near the end, and they had a lot more of the ball because of that. But we were comfortable, and I think sometimes last year we were guilty of when we were up, we were just continuing to play the exact same way. And although in the Championship you can do that, you can play the same way even if you're 2 or 3 up and keep going and try and get 5 or 6. Sometimes in the Premier League, a Premier League team can play rubbish for 70 minutes. You could be 3-0 up, and then they can score 3 in the last 20 minutes from corners, set pieces, and just from momentum. Yeah, exactly. The perfect, and I think Dean's seen that, and he's decided it makes more sense for him to defend when we've got a lead that high. I can't see our side really conceding more than 2 or 3 in a game now, especially when we try and sit in. When we are sitting in and defending a lead now, I'm a lot more confident. Whereas before, I'd be a bit worried. Wouldn't you? When we're sort of 1 or 2-0 up, you'd be sort of biting your nails on the edge of your seat.
Last season, it was definitely like that. Like, just going back to last season, Liverpool at home was 1-0 up. The last 3 minutes, we conceded 2 in 3 minutes, and it's just like, we didn't look comfortable. As soon as we brought off Gilbert, was it?
Yeah,
we just
Gilbert
did not
right back
at all.
We made the changes,
and we just crumbled.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Our game management is so much better.
Yeah,
and we know how to see out a game.
100%. No, I agree with you, and I think the partnership between Mings and Konsa is going to be huge this year. Mings and Konsa have, I think, in the last 3 games, 3 clean sheets, and the only goal we've conceded this year is against Burton Albion, which was just from a sloppy mistake, and everyone was sort of switched off. Our defensive record is second to no one in the league, I don't think. I think we've got the best defensive record in the league. Is that correct?
We haven't conceded yet.
Yeah, we haven't conceded a goal. And people will point out, oh, it's Sheffield United, and oh, it's only Fulham. But you can only play against the teams that are put in front of you.
And Sheffield United aren't no mugs. They finished top 10 last year. Yes, they got a man sent off, but that's not our fault.
No, exactly. And I think that the performance tonight followed up from the Bristol City performance. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you want to say about that, Jake. I mean, do you agree or?
Yeah, for me, the defence is all about structure. How we play with the defence now is that the fullbacks tuck in when the opposition have the ball. So it's almost like a very tight 4. And then when we win the ball back, the fullbacks then go wide. So I feel like that's quite an astute game plan by Smith. And it's kind of, it's very Sam Allardyce in like how we set up defensively, but it works. And then we're obviously a lot more fluid than some Allardyce teams going forward.
Yeah, building up from the back.
Something to like look at. Like when we defend very narrow to force teams out wide. And then when teams go out wide, they cross it in, and then just Mings and Konsa can just head it out. So I feel like that's a really good idea from the coaching team. I feel like that's one of the reasons why our defence has improved so much recently.
Yeah. Go on,
Mings
Ben,
and Konsa really remind me of Melberg and Larson in the sense of the knowledge they have together, and they know where each other will be, and they do cover each other. I do think they're a very good partnership, and they're still both very young.
Yeah,
they can definitely grow together, can't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think there'll be a centre-back partnership for the next 4 to 5 years, at least.
And I think what can't be underestimated with our back four, back five if you include Martinez, we have four English defenders. So we
Yeah,
obviously
back four.
have all back four. So Cash, Konsa, Target, and Mings. So they're all English. Martinez has been in this country for over 10 years. He speaks. We've all heard him in interviews. He speaks perfect English. We hear him barking orders. But the fact that
Yeah.
all five of them, there's no kind of language barrier. They're all sort of, because they've all as well, they've all been taught to play football in this country. They've all been taught the same sort of principles of football, and I think that will always help. So I think that will always help. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Jake, or.
Yeah, we seem to have a lot of British players, don't we? So we had like 7 or 8 British players starting. So run through them. We had the back four. We had McGinn, Harahan, Jack, and Ali. Yeah, so we had 8 British players.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're building quite a good British core of players, and it's very similar to Sheffield United last year, where the majority of their players were British, and because of that, you can, like, without trying to sign to Brexit here, that kind of helps in terms of everyone can speak the same language. There's no language issues, so I think it does help to create a unity in the squad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. In terms of building sort of a unity and building sort of that togetherness, because that was something that the sides that got relegated were 100% lacking. They didn't have any togetherness. There was no fighting for the shirt, and it didn't seem to be. They weren't up for the dogfight. They didn't want to be Villa players. And I think that when you look at the players that we have now, they all want to be here. They all want to be Villa players. Jack Grealish signs a new contract. Ming signing new contracts when they know full well they could potentially go. Because they've signed the contract, we can say it now. Jack Grealish, Mings. Even if Mings wasn't first choice, Mings wouldn't look out of place next to Harry Maguire at Man United, or wouldn't look out of place at Man City next to Laporte on the left-hand side. These are the types of players, even if they were not first choice and they were sort of like squad player, I think that's the level of player we can retain now. And I think that's a big point. And this evening just showed that last year's experience has made, because we haven't got too many new signings. That's predominantly the same nucleus of the side that we had last year. But the fact that a year of playing together is just giving us that little boost and that little experience, and just allowed us to be now sort of know where each other are without having to do that extra look. And that sometimes help, having one touch instead of two on a pass, and that you can tell with the quick passing, they all know where each other are going to be and what moves they're going to make. And I think that's just great to see. So Jake, I'm going to let you have the last point before we move on.
Yeah, just a small point. I think we'll have 2 England centre-backs by the end of the season. I think both Konsa and Mings will be in the England squad by the end of the season.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Can I just say for a minute, Villa are the embodiment of what English football should be like. It should be predominantly English players and British players.
This is a very Brexit podcast so far.
Look at Wolves. I saw a post, and they're like one player away from a full Portuguese starting 11.
I know.
Yeah, I
think shouldn't be right. It shouldn't be.
I agree in some respects. In terms of, I think that's going too far one way. I think you need a balance. I think the level that we've got now is okay. It's not so bad. You could add maybe one or two, because I think it's 8 out of 25 that needs to be homegrown. Is that correct? I think I'm basing that off. I'm not going to lie. I'm basing that off Football Manager, guys, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
No experts.
Yeah. So you've got to have 8. So maybe upping that to 10. But even then, I mean, the idea of the Premier League is it's the Premier League. It's not marketed as it's not.
Well, it's a
really
global league, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really marketed as
like
the English Premier League,
the
is
world
it?
Watching the Prem.
It's not the English Premier League. It may be on some games and things like that, but when it's marketed, you'll see Premier League, and it's known as globally. It's a product that is global. It's not just because it's based in the UK.
Yeah.
Isn't limited what they are. So I mean, it's the Premier League. It's not the English Premier League. So I sort of agree with your point that we are. If it went even further to 6 or 5, that would be too far, the wrong way.
Yeah.
You need to have some.
You need to find a balance, don't you?
Yeah, you need to find the right balance.
Because
And I think
many players dream to play in the Premier League. We've seen that with Villa signings.
And I mean, it, like I say, people say that it's not allowing English footballers through, but I think in the last 5-10 years it's 5 years. In the last 5 years, that's changed dramatically.
It has changed.
It's all about buying the next big thing, whereas before it was about buying the finished article. If you see it before, sort of, whereas I mean, Man United bought Van Persie, who had a year left, 2 years left, did he? And you see back then that was sort of Man United just bought the finished article, or they buy. Sort of Carrick was bought, and he was pretty much the finished article. And just using them as an example, that's what they tend to buy now. You're looking at buying potential. A lot of teams just buy potential. Haaland, Sancho, teams go for potential now. But yeah, we are going slightly on a tangent. So Jake, I'll let you finish this off.
Well, one final point. All the players we've brought this summer have experience in England. 3 Martinez at Arsenal, 2 English guys, and then Bertrand Traore at Chelsea. So I feel like that really helps us.
Yeah, and now Boda's well for the future and stand us in good stead, I think. So we're gonna move on. So what I'm gonna ask first is I'm just gonna ask you guys your player of the match, and why. We could potentially all have the same one. So what I'm going to do is, if you guys both have the same one, I'm going to change mine to probably the second. So yeah, if you want to go first, Jake, and then we'll move on to Ben.
I don't think either of you will have the same as me. I'm going to go Matty Cash. Thought he had a great game at right back. Got stuck into challenges, worked really hard. You can see the passion he has. He put in a few really good crosses. There's one to Jack where he just
Jack
put his
should have
body
done
over the
better.
bar.
Should have done better, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I know.
Got
caught in 2 minds and didn't either.
Yeah. Delivery was spot on, interceptions, challenges, up and down the flank. I just thought he was excellent all night.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Again, it wouldn't be the most popular choice, I don't think. But again, difficult to argue with it. He didn't put a foot wrong all evening. And I don't think, really, apart from maybe in the friendly, that not a lot of Villa fans saw, not a lot of Villa fans will have seen him made a mistake yet. So yeah, that's a good call. Ben, who would you have yours player of the match as, or man of the match? Sorry.
It's got to be McGinn, I think. The quality that he has on the ball is just unreal. He bossed the midfield today. He was unreal all night. You just couldn't stop him. Like, I'm pretty sure he had 100% dribble success rate, 88% pass accuracy, 36 touches, 4 key passes, 2 clearances, 2 assists, and 2 shots.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean,
it's just bossing the midfield, and it's just too good for fun tonight, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I was one of the people who, I wasn't critical. I just said that he wasn't the same as what we've seen him as. He was misplacing passes, and then others I think you guys both said to me, that's not necessarily what he gives to the team. But, I mean, that was what I'd seen him give in the Championship and previous years before the injury. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm watching him. When he gets the ball, he was exciting. Every Villa fan was excited when he got the ball because he made something happen. And I think that's something in the Premier League he sort of lacked slightly due to the fact he's obviously a step up. He's struggled with injuries. And I think tonight, my hat off to him. He obviously heard me on the podcast last week saying that he needs to not misplace passes. And then he comes out with 2 absolutely world-class passes. The first one is obviously the difficult one. The second one is more difficult than a lot of people and not a lot of viewers and fans would imagine it to be, because he's got to turn. weight it,
Yeah.
and he's sort of caught in two. Those are the ones that you always get caught in two minds. As do you
Yeah.
take one touch with your left foot, spin and hit it with your right? Do you what do you do? Do you control it and wait for someone to come? And I think he made the complete right decision, just touches it off. And Horahan, again, we have to give him credit. That was a class
Great
finish in the bottom
finish.
right corner.
Mhm.
So
Passed it.
yeah, I totally agree with both of those, and I think that you can make a case for either of them. The person I'm going to go with may again be a little surprising, and it's not something that I've seen many people actually talking about on Twitter. Is Tyrone Mings. I'd
Yeah.
say Tyrone Mings didn't put a foot wrong. He won every header, every ball that went in the box that was anywhere near him. He won. For the goal that they almost scored, it wasn't himself that was at fault. It was sort of it was Conser more so.
He got
Um,
fouled, didn't
yeah, and then he got fouled. Yeah, obviously he got fouled. So, but I mean, in the sense of they didn't look like scoring all night,
he?
and I
No.
think because Conser's been so good and not had the reputation that Mings had, obviously playing for England and things like that, Mings goes by a little bit. It goes under the radar, and we don't notice it, and we don't because it's a regular from him. We don't notice it as much. And I think what we'd seen last year is there was always one moment in the game where he would bring it
Do
out,
something.
not
Yeah.
realise there was someone behind him, and they take it off him, and they go one on one with the keeper, or he'd go to
Mm.
play a ball along the area and play it straight to the centre forward, and the centre forward would have a shot. And I think that's something that this year, from the 3 or 4 games that I've seen him play, he's cut that out. And if he can cut that out, there's not much else he could improve on as a defender because he's got the passing, he's got the range of passing, he's a leader, strong, wins headers, wins clearances. There's not much else he doesn't need. He just needs to cut these mistakes out. So yeah, Jake, I think you wanted to comment on that. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to. We mentioned it on the last couple podcasts, but again, I just want to praise John Terry and like the
Mm-hmm.
effect he's had on both centre backs,
Mm-hmm.
like both Mings and Concert. Like I'm pretty sure he would have had a meeting with both of them. Like he would have gone to Ty and been like,
Mm-hmm.
"Mate, you need to be a lot more careful. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't keep
Doing things like
making these
that.
errors if you want to be considered top centre back."
Yeah.
Like
We'll play for England.
Ty's problem last year, I feel like he got. You see, you get to a point in a football game. I've been there
Mm-hmm.
where it's almost you get too scared to make a mistake, and then because of that, you end up making a mistake off the back of being too scared to make one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
that was the issue with Ty.
Yeah.
Like the
Like
England call-up
Yeah.
affected him a bit, and he
it's
kind of
confident.
become too cautious.
Timid. He was very so
Yeah,
when he was getting the ball, he was timid and he wanted to do the easy
yeah,
pass. Whereas Mings before, when we were in, even when we moved to the Premier League at the start, before he got called up for England, when he gets in the defence, if he had 3 players round him, he'd bring it out, stride it out of defence, or he'd go to stride it out. He'd have 3 players round him and he'd turn backwards and roll it to the goalkeeper, and all the danger's gone. Where he was calm and he knew exactly what he was going to do. And I think before, sort of at that period, he was sort of a little bit more timid. He wanted to just play the easy pass, the first pass that he sees, whereas it wouldn't normally be the right one. So yeah, I agree in that sense. But I think due to the fact that he does fly under the radar, because we know how good he is, because we know what he brings to the table, he doesn't get as much appreciation. So yeah, so 3 different players of the match there, and I think all 3 you can make a big case for.
Mm.
So yeah, I totally agree with you guys. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything that either of you guys want to add, Ben. Do you want to add anything?
My close second was Ollie Watkins. I think today was one of his best games he's played for us. He didn't score, but he created things.
His
And
runs.
his runs and his passing, his hold up play, and he split the defence, and that's all he needed to do. I saw a tweet earlier, and people are comparing it to a Gabby-esque type of performance, which I completely
fine,
agree
Gabby.
with. He split the defence and he made the runs to give other players the positions to score.
Yeah,
I thought he
yeah,
was unlucky not to get a goal, and he deserved a goal in that game. But
yeah. Yeah, I saw some people
his
giving him
reason
stick about the
results.
first one. I mean, saw some people giving him stick about the one where the Trezeguet put across. and I think
You
it's
can't
too.
get
He,
No,
he couldn't. He
that's
couldn't have got to that. It was
Never.
too far in front of
Too
him,
much
and it's
pace.
too hard. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not even knocking Trezeguet because you can understand what he's trying to. He's trying to fizz it in the sense that
Great ball.
he doesn't want. Yeah, he doesn't want to hit the first man, and that's one of the biggest things that annoys me when someone puts a cross in and it hits the first man. It's just a waste. It's lazy, and I think he fizzes it across, and I think Watkins is never getting there no matter what he does. So that's
No
not.
sense forward in the world getting to that.
No, and I think the other flash of brilliance that I saw from him was they put a ball over the top and he got it on the left-hand corner of their box just outside, and he cut inside, beat his man, cut inside again, beat another man, and curled one for the top corner. Now it went about a foot over, but the fact that he actually just jinked inside, beat two players, and had a shot, that's something that not a lot of strikers, even in the Premier League, do. There's not many strikers. I mean, you can't name too many players that would do that. And I think it's a good sign that he is doing that because a lot of time, I bet he does that sort of thing in training. 10 times out of 10, he sticks it in the top corner, and it's just the bobble or the fact that someone's pressuring him or something like that that's put him off. And I think that he's going to be a great addition if he's not scoring goals. I think a big thing for the strikers if you're not scoring goals, but you're contributing to the play the way that he does, and you're stretching defenses. I mean, defenses look petrified whenever he gets there one-on-one with them, and you can see it because they're grabbing him. They grab his shirt and they grab him and they're trying to tussle with him. Yeah, and I mean,
and a lot of his shirt then.
Yeah,
Supposedly he should have got booked.
Adore should have got sent off. Definitely, in my opinion, just due to the amount of. I think I counted 3 or 4 fouls that he did himself, and and I think that's something that we tend to draw from a lot of teams. We tend to draw a lot of fouls because we have good players that on the ball, and we do just nip it away from them. But yeah, just before we move on, we'll leave it with Jake. Just as we'll let Jake have the last point.
I can't believe we've gone this long into the podcast and hardly mentioned Jack.
Yeah,
I thought he ran the game.
Yeah,
he's another one because you expect that sort of performance from him.
Yeah.
Like if he was anyone, say if he's Trezeguet that put in the performance Jack today, everyone would be raving about him. It'd be everyone's man of the match. Because it's Jack, no one says anything, do they?
No, yeah. I mean,
Jack's Jack.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah. I think Jack was good, but I think the thing that caught my eye, the reason that I didn't mention him is Jack. The big thing about Jack Grealish is he never gives the ball away. You give it him wherever he is, the ball can drop in our penalty box from a corner. He controls it, and then any other player's got it. You're like, clear it. He's shouting at the TV to clear it. But if Jack's got it, you're like, no, you calm. You're like, what he's going to do? He's going to control it and runs out and gets a foul. That's what Jack Grealish does. And I think tonight the only issue that Jack does that he doesn't normally do is he played a couple of balls. He gave them one. I think he cut back. I think he was in the first half. He cut back into our half, and he was like running backwards towards our goal. Tried to play it across the box, and it went straight to their striker. And against Fulham, when whoever the player who got it was, I'm not sure, Ivan Cavallero, I think it was, and he put it. It was like a rugby. It was like a bloody rugby punt. He just put it like about 100 yards over the bar. But the problem is the problem is you give that to De Bruyne or Aguero or a player of that, or Mason Greenwood or someone like that, that shot's going on target. And I think that's the only criticism of having him tonight. He never ever usually does it. There was 2 or 3 occasions he did that, and that's the only reason that I haven't mentioned him. Yeah, that's the only reason I haven't mentioned him.
Sorry.
It's not enough to pick him out on because people make mistakes, but yeah, that's the only thing I'd comment on with Jack. Game. So yeah, so sorry, what do you want to say? Sorry, Jake.
The point is, though, if that's anyone else, he doesn't get mentioned because Jack set his expectations so high. Mm-hmm. Like Kai Havertz in his first Chelsea game kicked one straight out play. Yeah. Like because it's Jack, people pick up on it a lot more. Mm-hmm. Like because it's such a rare thing. Say Target does that, we're not talking about our.
No. I guess.
I think Tiger was great today.
No, it wasn't his better games. Again, he's one of those. There's a bit like a headless chicken. Sometimes he flies into things that you just don't know why he's there, or the ball. You'll be watching the play, and then he'll come flying in from a challenge, and it's completely wet, like he's completely out of shot, or he makes rash decisions, I think. And I think again, you've got to understand that these players, they in footballing terms, they're still young.
It's 24,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
I think
25?
20, 23, 24, 25. Even if he's 24, 25, that's a good 7 years left he's got playing football.
Yeah.
And I'd say, especially defenders, because defenders is all about experience, in my opinion. I don't play there.
Yeah.
I've never played there before. But I think the experience, especially at these high levels, just knowing when to do things like professionally. So when they do like a little professional fouls, or they'll when the ball's running out into our corner, the defender will be running. They'll get a little touch in the back and fall on the floor and get a foul. Things like that. And I think that's the sort of thing that you get with experience. But yeah, Target again. If you had to pick someone who wasn't at the races as much as they normally would, it would probably be Target. But again, we're picking sort of needle in a haystack. We're trying to find something that maybe isn't particularly there.
I'm trying to pick the worst out of a good bunch.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, no one deserves any sort of criticism, but again, that would probably be the decision a lot of fans are asking to be recruited for, because of maybe more so because of Neil Taylor. But
I personally think Target Taylor would do for a season.
Yeah, I like him, and I think he'll only get better. I mean, Jake, what do you think? Do you think the Target was not himself, or do you think he was okay, or how do you think he did tonight?
I mean, I play football every week as a defender, so I'd say I'm pretty well qualified to speak on this.
Yeah.
Like, there's some games where the forward player just has your number.
Yeah.
Like, it could be the worst forward player in the world. On a one-off game, like, you sometimes can have those moments where someone has a certain style against you that you're not used to, or they have a moment early on that impacts the game. It's like there are games where you can just have games like that, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Let me just ask you a question. So, would it worry you, and just be brutally honest, or would it worry you that it was against Fulham, that if he's struggling sort of against Fulham, that when we come up against the top 10 side, so say Everton, a side where they've got James, Richarlison, and players like that, if they go one-on-one, would you be worried having Target against them, or would you say that he's good enough, or what would your point be on that? Do you think we need a new left back, or do you think Target's good enough?
Football's a strange game, mate, isn't it? It's like you can be like, look at Al Ghazi, for example. He can play like Ronaldo one game and can't have the next. It's like you're not going to play great every game. Like, football's not played on paper. If it was, you might just simulate the season on Football Manager. Like, he's going to have games where he can defend well, like Arsenal last year. Like, I'll use that as an example. Arsenal last year, he came up against Aubameyang when he drifted out wide.
Yeah.
He was 1-1 against Aubameyang on a couple of occasions. He dealt with him superbly.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's just a one-off game, and I don't think it's too much to be worried about. Like I said, football is a strange game, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, like I say, I think the silly thing is he's probably number 3 or 4 in the England pecking order at left back.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. We're saying, and that just goes to show the expectation and improvement and progress that Villa have gone through. That we're sat here talking about Target, saying perhaps he's a weak point, whereas last year he was probably one of the better players with assists and making things happen. He scored obviously the goal against Leicester. So I think that Target, the fact that we're sat here talking about maybe Target was one of the people that we need to improve is a good sign. I mean, just now moving on. I just want to talk about our bench, because we touched on it at the Sheffield United game, that perhaps it was lacking a little bit. But then you look at this one, Davis, Traore, just to name a few. I think it was Hotta was another one, wasn't it? Ramsey, El Mohammadi. Players that, if any of those players come on, I'm not looking at them thinking, oh God, I'm sad to lose someone, or oh God, we've not got much on the bench. I think when you've got Ramsey, Ramsey, Traore, and Davis to come on, it's a big benefit because they're the type of attacking players and creative players that we've always been missing without Jack. So yeah, but I know you both want it. You're both eager to speak about this, so I'll let Jake go first, and then let Ben have his say.
For me, the fact that Anwar El Ghazi wasn't even in the squad today, that's a big statement for me. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that Dean Smith trusts Jacob Ramsey, a 19-year-old, he has played, 15, 20 games of competitive football in his career,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say. The fact that
Yeah.
Smith trusts him over a seasoned pro who has hundreds of games under his belt,
Mm-hmm. Been
is a big
captains of
thing for
clubs.
me. And it doesn't look good for Anwar, does it? The fact
No.
that Jacob Ramsey's on the bench ahead of him.
No. And I think that could be we could potentially see the end of Anwar. It's not something I want to see, but I think perhaps that game against Bristol was his audition or final sort of chance to prove himself. And although he did score, obviously, that goal, which was a tap-in that, frankly, my little sister could have. Yeah, frankly, my little sister could have scored. That was put on a plate for him by Davis. Other than that, he didn't do a great deal. And I think in this league, you need pace or skill or a combination of both, sort of thing. And he doesn't. He's good, and he'd be a class player for a championship side. But where we want to go and where we're heading at the moment, he isn't good enough for what we need, unfortunately. And I don't like saying that because I quite like him. The fact what he did for Villa in the playoff final, scoring the first goal, the fact that he didn't do Ramadan because he wanted to make sure he's in the best possible condition, which is against his actual religion he's followed for 23, 24, 25 years, however old he is. To do that and sacrifice that for the club means we should give him more respect than perhaps what he gets, because the commitment and the drive and the desire to be a Villa player has never been in question. It's just the quality, and I think players like that you need to give some respect. I think another one who falls in that is Lansbury. Again, you can tell he's desperate to play. He looks like a new man. He looked like a new man when Dean Smith come in. He looked like he was sick of Steve Bruce, and as soon as Dean come in, he did look like a different player. He trimmed down. And again, you can see him in the cup games. He's trying his hardest to be a Villa player. He wants to play. It's not that he's not turning up or not putting the effort in. And I think that just goes to show that the progress that our squad have had. That we've got these players who aren't getting into the team, desperate to play still. They're not having a paddy throwing their toys out the pram. They're knuckling down and trying to prove themselves, and that's a difference from this squad compared to the squad that went down. And I think that is why the club is going in the right direction. We're signing the players with the right mentality and right attitude, and that should be first and foremost. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think Lansbury is a very good player. That's been riddled with injuries the whole time he's been at the club. So like, when I think of Lansbury, I look back to the Preston game, his debut against Preston.
Yeah.
He was unreal that night.
Took everything
Didn't
as
put a foot wrong.
Took free
Every
kicks,
pass
corners,
was pinpoint, everything.
and the fact that
And
we've got
injured.
and the fact that we've got 19-year-olds. So Jacob Ramsey getting in the squad last night, keeping him out. We've got Trezeguet, who's obviously had a rocket put up his arse somehow over the summer, and he seems a completely different player. Again, sometimes he makes silly decisions and does things that most footballers wouldn't do. So he'll give a foul away where there's no need to give a foul and things like that. But the work rate again, and he must be horrible to play against. He's just everywhere. He just runs everywhere.
Yeah.
And his stamina and stuff. And the fact that we've got him, we've got Adam, I always keep saying that. So we've got Bertrand Traore waiting in the wings now. That's going to keep him on his toes. And can you do you drop Trezeguet after today? It'd be difficult to make that case, wouldn't it? I mean, why do you change something why do you change a side that's just won 3-0 would be the argument, wouldn't it? And I mean, the fact that we've got players like that now chomping at the bit, and no doubt other players about to come in, it just bodes really well for us. And I mean, it's been a long time since I've felt this positive about a Villa side. And I think 4 games, 4 wins, I think it was. We scored
1 goal conceded.
1 goal conceded in all 4. That's just you can't beat it, can you? Really, there's nothing. The only way you can say is if we didn't concede the first goal against Burton, and we can't. That's just being stupidly picky. So yeah, I think tonight's performance demonstrates we're going in the right direction, and the signings we've made have been the right ones for maybe the first time in a few years. Maybe when we were getting promoted and stuff, we signed the right players. But before that, when we were in the Premier League, we never bought the right players since 2008. And I think now we are signing the right players. You likes of Cash, Traore, players that want to play for the shirt, are hungry to play for the shirt, and they're not using us as a stepping stone, which even our best players in previous years, Benteke was just using us as a stepping stone. Ashley Young, but I don't think he uses a stepping stone particularly. And I think because, like I say, I mean, that generation of players stayed for 2 or 3 years because they were promised that we were going to spend that extra bit to get into the Champions League, and it never ever came because O'Neill had spent too much. But I think this group of players, this generation of players, is the best we've had in a long, long time. Don't you agree?
This is the most excited I've been since O'Neill, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd agree with that. Yeah. So I was so 2010. So we're talking 2010 is 2020 now. So just roughly, I was about 14 when that side was about. So that was the side. So yeah, and then I saw us crumble, and that was like my sort of proper years, sort of especially going when I was first going to pubs and stuff. We were awful, and I think finally we're getting our Aston Villa back. We're getting the club that we should be, the club that other fans, that whenever I speak to fans abroad and I speak about Villa, they all know Villa. We are a recognisable brand. We're a recognisable club.
We're global.
We are an international
We are
brand.
global, yeah. We are a global side, and I think it just goes to show we've got followers that are from. We've got the Polish villains who are looking to get on at some point. The Ghanaian villains were looking to get on at some point. We are absolutely all over the globe, and we're not just over the globe. The fans are fanatical. The fans are obviously fanatical. We've all seen the videos, and I think this season could be a very, very exciting one for us.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, just before we wrap up, then, guys, is there anything last comments you want to make, or anything you want to say?
All right, just looking forward to the Stoke game, really.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's the same as the Bristol City, where you can just spend a tenner to buy it.
Yeah, just to our followers, we will look at getting streams, etc. So if you are having any issues, add us on the Villa Vision on Twitter, and we'll look at helping anyone out who needs, any Villa fans that need any assistance watching the game, and we'll do our very best to assist you. All right. But yeah, anything else, Ben, or?
No, we've covered it all, really. I just want to add as well.
Fantastic.
When you get to the teacher at the end of the lesson, asking about something.
Yeah, no. But yeah, okay. So what we'll do is we'll leave it there, guys.
Just wanted to add. Jacob Ramsey tonight. Want to congratulate him on his first Premier League game. I thought he was outstanding when he come on.
Yeah.
Congratulate.
Special talent.
Yeah, special. He's going to be everything that fans wanted Callum O'Hare to be. Yeah. And I'm not saying that horribly. I love Callum O'Hare, but again, Jacob Ramsey's the upgraded version, and I think we're gonna see that because, like I say, he didn't look out of place this evening. So yeah, well done, Jacob. If you are listening, then thank you. But yeah, we'll thank you to both my guests anyway, Ben and Jake. We're gonna wrap that up there, unless you have anything further to add at all.
No. That's about it, mate.
Covered it. Fantastic. So yeah, cheers for everyone who's listened, everyone who's subscribed, anyone who's followed us on Twitter, shared any of our promotions, visited our website. You can obviously visit that, www.thevillavision.co.uk. We are the Villa Vision on every social media, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts we've just uploaded to today, so we can get on there. We're on Facebook. You can also join our Facebook group, and we've got loads of new things coming. So yeah, If you want to get involved, just drop us a message, drop us a DM, fill out our form on the website, and we'll get back to you. But other than that, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next time on the Villa Vision podcast. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.